Hello, hello. Oh, hello, I'm blurry. There we are. I forgot to adjust my focus. Well, that's a first. I haven't done that in a while. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting Tuesday night Eventide Patrons only stream. I am your host, Jason Bulman. I'm the creator of Pathfinder and of the Eventide setting. You all know that, but just in case people watch this later. Tonight, everybody, we're going to hang out and kind of have a nice casual chat, I think. I wanted to talk about something that I think is one of the trickier things to manage and pull off as a GM, and that is kind of slower sessions. In particular, sessions of your game where the PCs decide to do shopping. I mentioned this because it came up. And I think it's worth talking about. It's worth talking about how I'm handling it in Eventide and in Wormbone. And I think it's worth talking about kind of from a larger meta sense about how, as a game master, you can handle these sorts of things and keep them kind of interesting. I think that it is one of the parts of the game that is important, but also can feel very perfunctory. And sometimes GMs just hand wave it away. And there are times where that's the appropriate answer. So what am I talking about here? Let me get into the specifics. In my playtest games, both groups have wrapped up Part 2 of Wulfrun's Fate. They're both done. One is a little ahead of the other by an hour's worth of play. They just kind of wrap things up faster than the other group. And as a result, they've started the early parts of Part 3. The other group has not. The other group, the group that I just played with on Monday, that would be last night, they literally found the book finally and concluded Part 2 of Wulfrun's Fate. So they are now realizing that they need to take the journey to Red Thistle. That is Part 3 of the adventure, is going to Red Thistle and an overland journey, right? So we've done a dungeon adventure, we've done a city mystery exploration, and now we do the overland journey. So I've done the math and kind of figured out how long the journey is. Even with horses, it's still 6-ish days. Without horses, it's more like 10. So it doesn't really matter which one the group picks. If they do manage to get horses or if they don't, it doesn't really change over much. But before they go on this journey, the group was like, well, we should equip ourselves for travel, right? Our characters didn't buy the things needed to survive in the wilderness. We have no wilderness survival gear. So that kind of triggered a shopping excursion. Now, fortunately, I kind of saw this coming. Because, I know my players, I know what they have. I kind of know what starting characters buy, and they don't tend to buy necessarily bedrolls and tents and things like that. That's heavy outdoor gear, and not every character buys it to begin with. So I kind of knew that at the start of Part 3, that was the point where we were going to see characters go, you know what, we need to go equip ourselves for a overland journey, right? So that is a scene at in the part of start three of that is a scene in the start of Part 3 of Wulfrun's Fate. It's an optional scene. Players may not do it. Maybe they have all the gear they want. And again, this is the sort of thing that maybe you as a GM just kind of want to hand wave away. But if you don't, I want to provide you with the tools and the necessary thoughts and ideas to kind of have a fun little encounter. So there are, there's a lot of places you could go in Wormbone, but there is one place that if you ask anyone, they tell you, oh yeah, if you're making a travel, going from one place to another, you want to go to the Roaming Ogre. The Roaming Ogre is a shop that specializes in travel gear. They have tents, and they have, fishing tackle, and they have, a cold weather gear, and they have rope, and, all the sorts of things you would need to go camping. This is the place where you actually go to buy, travel rations. Because you can't just go to the local tavern and be like, yes, I'll take some of your finest travel rations. They're going to be like, we don't serve that here. We have food that you eat now. You want some stew? I'll put it in a bucket for you. You can take it with you. It'll be good tomorrow for about half the day. And then you probably shouldn't eat it anymore. So, like, I do try and make the distinction that, you know, hey, most of the restaurants and taverns and bars in the town, they don't sell this kind of stuff. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, it's kind of like REI. So, in part 3, that's where this encounter lives. And basically, you can go there and visit with, her name, Tylery Glimmereye, who is a halfling, proprietor of the Roaming Ogre. Now, they carry kind of all the travel gear you might find in the core rulebook. Right? So, I don't really include a list here of what she all has available. But instead, what I include is a list of what she recommends if the players are like, we're going on a journey, what should we get? I provide you that list. So, that's kind of what happened. And this was on Thursday of last week. So, and I'll go into some of the details here, but I want to kind of talk about this part of a narrative in general. I do think there's 2 approaches to it. The first approach is to just make it a non-entity. Just look at the players and say, you know what, buy whatever alchemical item you want. Buy whatever travel gear you want. What shop are you at? They sell food. You can get whatever food is in the core rulebook. And that's fine. And in some situations where it's just one player needing to pick up a thing or two, that's probably the right answer, right? So if, you know, the players are, you know, in the middle of an investigation and they all have things that they're doing and one of them wants to go shopping, that's probably not the point in time where you want to turn it into a giant set piece encounter, right? Because frankly, it's not as engaging with one player, and it oftentimes is easier to just kind of move along with something that is rather perfunctory and doesn't engage with the whole party. That is a very different approach, though, if the party is all going to a shop. That is almost always when I make the shop encounter more of a thing. I always take that as my cue. If the majority of the party's going there, then I should probably make it something more than just hand wave. There's an exception to that, though. And I think that exception is, this is a shop they've been to 8 times. They know the owner. We've done the shtick. There isn't a new thing there. Maybe next time when they go, there's something different going on. But this is just a quick exchange with someone they already know. You can kind of do a quick, you know, back and forth, but honestly, you can just kind of breeze past it. But the first time the players go there, and they go there as a group, I do like to make a set piece out of it, because I do think it helps, A, make it a memorable location. That way, later on, when they're like, oh man, we need more rope, let's go to the Roaming Ogre, right? Allows you to start establishing a pattern. Allows them to start becoming familiar with NPCs. After we wrapped up last night's game, one of my players was like, yeah, I can't believe, you know, now that we're done with part 2, because I told them, hey, you're done with part 2. They were like, wow, I honestly, you know, part 1 was just a dungeon crawl and I didn't really get a good sense of the town. But now at the end of part 2, I feel like I know this place. I know the characters. I know a lot of the major players. I'm starting to get a sense of the people in the town and what is going on here. And that was the entire point, right? Part 2 of the adventure isn't just about solving the mystery of where Wolfran's Ring is. It's about making the town a place. Because remember, Wolfran's Fate is an introductory adventure. It's there not just to have you have a good time. It's there to establish the setting and the kind of focal point for this first burst of setting information. So the entire point of this is to give you kind of the full context. And, you know, starting off with just kind of let the characters learn about themselves and learn some history about the town. Then learn about the town itself, start meeting the major players, start learning about who's who, start learning about, you know, what other stories are happening here. And now it's going to go to the next stage, which is traveling through this region, learning about where things are, how they are in relation to each other, what the weather's like, what the environment's like, what the nearby dangers are. You know, that's kind of part 3. And then part 4 comes back to kind of close up the story. So, we got off track there from shopping. But at the start of part 3, right, you know, they have to go on this overland journey. So, this is a scene that I do recommend that folks kind of play out. Is it action-packed? Is it a combat? No. The shopkeep isn't here to fight you. But the shopkeep is here to be an interesting character. So, that gets me back to making shopping encounters interesting. And I think there's 3 primary ways to do this. And in part 2 and part 3, I've tried to do all of these. The first way you can make a shop interesting is by creating a custom list of goods and services. So, in the Eventide GM's library, so the kind of GM guide, there is a list of Wormbone locations, and whenever it talks about these locations, it gives you not only the public information, but it gives you whatever secrets or adventure hooks are there. It also gives you what services they offer. So, for example, the Catacomb, which is an inn inside an old catacomb, so you sleep in the burial niches. It lists the various services. So you want to sleep in a niche for the night? That's 3 copper. You want to sleep in a private crypt that sleeps 2? That's 4 silver. If you want to sleep in the Grand Mausoleum that sleeps 6, that's 1 gold per night. Right? You want food and drink? They have the basic food and drink is they offer a snack that is stale bread, aged cheddar, and a brittle stick, which is a sausage, which is considered a poor quality meal, and it's a copper. Very cheap. But then, for 3 copper, you can get cold river trout, pickled roots, and rose petal salad. This is... He goes and collects the roses from nearby graves and then makes salad out of them. So that's 3 copper. And then finally you can, and that's a square meal, and then you can get the drink that they have is called Mourner's Tears, a pale bitter ale. So that's one way you can kind of customize a shopping encounter. You can create a bespoke list. And admittedly, this is an inn, which is talking about food and drink and services. So, but if you look, there is also, if you get down to Ingot, the blacksmith shop, I list all of the armor and weapons that Ingot has in stock. But there's a few special things in there. Like, he specifically has a low-grade cold iron Morningstar. He has a low-grade silver short sword. He has a couple special things floating around that you can buy. These are things that he has in addition to daggers and greatswords and hammers and longswords and all sorts. Right? You know, he's got breastplates and half plate and scale mail. He works in metal, so it's all the metal stuff. So that's a bespoke list as well. The place where it really shines is when you get to Veryl's Sleep, which is an alchemist shop. The alchemist shop is one that lists specifically what alchemical items he has, and most of them are between levels 1 and 5. But he does have one special item called Veryl's Tonic, which is very expensive. It's 40 gold for 1 dose of Veryl's Tonic. But it works as a lesser elixir of life and a lesser Bravo's Brew all in one bottle. So you drink it and you get the effects of both. You get healed up and you get Bravo's Brew bonuses, right? Not a bad little tonic. Something special he brewed up. So that's kind of the first thing you can do. is create custom lists. Now, I'm trying to remember if I... Let me check a thing. Quick. I mean, it's a level 6 consumable item, so it's a little pricey. But if you look at the cost of a lesser Elixir of Life and a lesser Bravos Brew, I think it comes out better. I do think those little custom things add a great deal of texture to the game. They give the players a sense that this isn't just the GM's guide. Sorry, this isn't just the core rulebook in shop form, right? I think that's the thing you're trying to avoid. Now, I do, the thing I want to stress is the things that I just mentioned are actually up on MinotaurGames.com. So if you missed them, you can go log in there, link in your Patreon, and you can see these things. They're already in there. So you can learn about Varel's Tonic. It's listed in there. You can learn about what food you can get at the 8 Horse Inn, right? Those things are on the site already. It occurs to me I have not updated these in forever, but they are all in. I need to add more to have more. I haven't been working on the website lately. So there's that. That's the first way you can make a shopping experience more interesting. The second way you can make a shopping experience more interesting is okay. The second way you can make a shopping excursion more interesting is by including other shoppers that are interesting characters, right? Because the players shouldn't be the only people in the shop, and this is a good way for the players to get to know other NPCs, right? If they're out, there's obvious examples of this. The players are in the tap room of the local tavern that they're staying at. They meet other people. That's the obvious one. But I think a lot of GMs skip the notion of you're in a local shop buying some alchemical items, and you meet someone else who's there to do the same, right? First of all, it can be really interesting if the players are thinking about buying something that's in a limited supply, and the other people show up and start buying it. You have an instant kind of moment of conflict, right? We did this in part 2 of Wolfran's Fate. Oh, sorry, no, in part 1. In part 1 of Wolfran's Fate, there is an optional encounter that is recommended to be run that when the players go to buy alchemical items, or some other shop, but probably alchemical items, a bunch of lumberjacks come in to buy stuff to outfit for their upcoming trip. And all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of lumberjacks in there looking at the same things the players are looking at, and I'm like, there are 6 minor elixirs of life. And one of the lumberjacks just picked one up. And all of a sudden the players are over there going, no, these are mine now. What they didn't know is that it was always originally 5, and I added 1 that allowed the lumberjack to buy one, right? So, the way that kind of works is it suddenly creates competition for items to purchase. And it doesn't have to be anything tense, but it does force the players to make decisions, which is good because oftentimes when shopping, it doesn't really feel like there's any sense of urgency. So adding some other people there that are buying things as well suddenly does add some urgency. Now, that's on top of the fact that these other characters can be people that they can roleplay with. They can have interactions with that are interesting and engaging. You don't always get that with okay. Okay. Sorry. I'm just having a bit of trouble with one of my analytic tools. So you don't always get that otherwise. The players just kind of are looking at the list themselves. And all of a sudden, if you've got a character you can have talk to them, you've got something interesting. And then obviously the last thing that I think is in the GM's toolbox to make shopping interesting is the shopkeep themselves, right? Having the shopkeep be a character that is someone who that they can interact with, and who is inherently kind of interesting, I think goes a long way, right? That's what makes the place memorable, and that's also the anchor character that you can come back to time and time again. So in part 2 of Wolfram's Fate, there's the tea shop. I had players from one of my groups go there twice. The other group didn't go there at all. There's the innkeeps and owners at the Skygaze Inn. Both groups met those people. Both groups kind of came to like those people. I think there's just a kind of an interesting, slowly building out and creating a mental image of the place. Did any of my players try and haggle? They didn't try and haggle too much. I got a little bit of haggling here and there, especially when I get a lot more haggling when my players are trying to negotiate something that's less of a purchase and more of a contract or a deal, right? It's like, oh, well, we're going to do this thing for you. Well, I mean, we can do it, but, it'd be nice if we got paid. And, as GM, I'll audible that stuff. I won't necessarily put it in the adventure unless it's something that's a feature of the adventure. So let's get back to my most recent experience here. I had a group, they're starting part 3 of Wolfram's Fate, and they go to the Roaming Ogre. Now, the Roaming Ogre is operated by Tylerie Glimmereye. And Tylerie, a bit of a shady character. So, very fast talking. A thing about halflings when I play them is that they're usually really fast talking. They like to do a lot of talking. They got things to talk about. They want to talk to you about things, right? I just pick up my pace, right? So, hey, you look like you're about to be adventures. Where are you heading? There's plenty of places to go in the Iceskyre Valley. Many dangers out there. I know about all of them. I can tell you about them. You just tell me where you're going, and I can help you out, right? I just pick up the cadence and pace. My halflings talk fast. So, when they came in, Tylerie immediately launched into, looks like you're traveling somewhere, and started going to town with them, trying to walk and talk them through all of the various things that they would need to do and get to go on their journey. So, as I said, the adventure is going to include a list of what Tylerie recommends. And it's broken into kind of 3 parts. The first part is what every character should have. The second part is what the group should have a set of if they're traveling. And the third one is like, you need a pack animal? I can hook you up with a pack animal. Some of you may have seen me make a funny comment about this on Twitter. I'll get to that here in a sec. So, the things that she recommends every character buy is like, oh, you should get a bedroll. Everybody needs a bedroll. You'd be surprised how hard the ground is out there. You can't get a good night's sleep without a bedroll. You should definitely also make sure she has some winter clothing. It's getting awfully cold out there. It doesn't look like you're outfitted for the cold. Rations. You're going to need rations. 2 weeks worth of rations. And this is a point where I go into salesman mode, where it's like, oh, rations. You're going to need 2 weeks worth of rations. Now, we got these. These are dry tack. You got some biscuits. Get some dried meats here. It'll keep you alive, but I'm not going to pretend that you're going to have a good time. If you want, we could upgrade you to deluxe rations, which include dried meats and salts and spices, and allows you to make nourishing stews every night around the campfire. But we have to outfit that for everybody, right? So it's like, you can spend 8 silver to get 2 weeks worth of food per person, or you can spend 2 gold per person to get 2 weeks worth of food per person and get like dried meats and a dried wheel of cheese and enough stuff so that you can go on this journey and have like rich hearty meals at the campfire. So Tylerie's trying to upsell them already, right? Soap, you need soap. How about a pup tent, right? Water skin, all the obvious things. That's kind of the things that she recommends that everybody has. A bedroll, winter clothing, rations, soap, a pup tent, and water skins. That's what you need if you're going to go on a long journey, right? And then she's like, well, there's going to be things that you're going to need as a group. Not everybody needs one of these, but you should definitely have them in the group, right? You're going to want a compass just in case you get lost. The trail's pretty straight and narrow, but it is easy to get lost on it and kind of go off in the wrong direction. And trust me, a compass can mean the difference between life and death. You're going to want a fishing tackle, flint and steel. You're going to need to be able to start fires. Make sure to bring a lantern. Make sure to bring a repair kit. How about rope? You need rope, right? Here's a list of kind of travel kit. And she's like, that's a lot of stuff. It's very heavy. You might also, and if you get those deluxe rations, you're going to want a cooking kit, right? So like it's basically a metal tripod that then has a chain that suspends that allows you to suspend a kettle or a fry pan over the fire, right? Cooking kit. She's like, yeah, you're gonna want one of those, right? You know, she's like, all this stuff's getting very heavy though. You're not gonna want to carry it all yourself. You should probably get a donkey, right? I sell donkeys. I got donkeys out back, right? And so she then is trying to upsell them on a donkey. Then of course you need to buy saddlebags and you need to buy feed for the donkey, and you're gonna want some water skins for the donkey, right? So it's all about the constant kind of upsell, and that's what this encounter is. It's about the players have just come into a bunch of money. Right? The end of part 2 gives the players about 100 gold in coin to work with. And depending on how they do in some of the contests, they could have even more. Right? They could have some credit at Veryl's Sleep. They could have, if they win the relay race, if they come in first, second, or third in the relay race, they get at least a little coin. 10, 50, or 100 extra gold. Right? So the players are kind of flush. So this is the point where I want to start draining the money right back out of them, right? I mean, what you do as a GM, right? You know, here, have a whole bunch of money. I'm going to take that all back, right? You know, now you need to go buy a bunch of gear and shit. Okay, so we're going to spend, you know, the way it kind of all plays out is it ends up being, you know, about 2-ish gold per person. And if you buy all the other things she recommends, it's like another 10. So, like, you can easily spend like 20 gold in like the blink of an eye. Just like, whoop, that's gone. Right? You know? And when you got 100, buying 100, spending 20 gold on just ordinary gear can be very expensive. Now you start getting into alchemical items, that money disappears fast. But this is now the point where Tyler really pours it on. She's like, you know what? Where are you heading, right? And if they tell her, doesn't matter where they. She's like, you know what? I have something that might interest you. You look like daring folk. So she beckons them to the back, where she pulls out a small case and reveals a rolled up. And she's like, I got a map I could sell you. Now, I came into the possession of this map just a few days ago from a member of the Blue Banners who took out a bandit. The bandit tried to sneak up on him. They took him out and found this map on him. Now, they were heading back to town. They didn't have time to check in on it, so he sold it to me. Now, I'm willing to sell it to you. And the players might be like, well, why don't we just go explore it and we'll split things with you? And she's like, yeah. I've heard that story before. And then you come back and tell me there was nothing in it, and your pockets are suddenly a lot heavier. We're not doing that. I'll sell you this map, and you can go investigate it. Now, it's a bit of risk on your part. It's a bit of risk on my part. Might be worth a whole lot more. Might be worth a whole lot less. We can't possibly know, but that's the risk we're going to take. And I'm willing to sell you this map for 20 gold. And I go with that. But they don't know that. So, like, this is the sort of thing that makes this went from a shopping encounter to a full-blown role-playing encounter. As the players started haggling and maybe thinking about it and hemming and hawing and being like, that's a lot of money. And she's like, listen, these bandits they could have been flush. You don't know. This could be their hideout filled with all of their loot. And maybe they're all gone, right? You know, it's about kind of trying to create an adventure feel in the middle of what is otherwise a pretty boring shopping expedition. So I did have one of my players was like, well, why don't you let us look at the map to see if it's authentic? And she's like, I let you look at the map and I've basically given it to you, right? If you've seen the map, what's to keep you from just going to where the map indicates, right? You know, so it is just kind of a decide whether or not you want to invest in a mysterious side quest. Now, there is going to be a part of this adventure that is, if you buy the map, what's there? Between you and me, I don't know yet. Probably not nothing, but it's probably not what she promised. So, you know, that's the kind of thing that, you know, frankly, they went in there to just buy a couple pieces of gear. And we ended up role-playing that encounter for, like, 45 minutes. Like, it was a whole thing. The players wanted to talk about what gear they needed. They wanted to look at their equipment list. They wanted to look at what I was offering. They asked about other things. They were like, hey, can we get this or this or this? Like, yeah, you sure can. I got that right over here. Maybe instead of this rope, you'd like to consider this nicer silk rope, right? And trying to constantly sell them. So what I've done is created a character that is more than just kind of a faceless merchant, a faceless vending machine for the core rulebook. Boring stock items, rope, bedrolls. Making buying a bedroll exciting is hard work. Like, getting the players excited about it, I think, is tricky to do, but it's worth it. It's worth it because in the end, you've created a more rich texture for your world. You know, it feels more like the world is lived in, like the world is real, like the things that are happening in it aren't just a gamist manifestation, right? Because there are elements of that can feel that way. And honestly, Varel's Sleep is kind of weird, because Varel's Sleep, the other major shop the players have gone to, is the alchemical shop where the alchemist behind the counter is just asleep. I've come to realize that I need to add assistants to Varel's Sleep. Like, he's got 1 or 2 assistants that keep people honest, but also are there for folks to interact with and make sure that no one bothers Varel. Because while Varel's asleep, it strains credulity if weird things happen. So that is kind of what I think you can do to make shopping expedition fun. Again, to recap, right? Give them a tailored list of items, right? If you want examples, go to MinotaurGames.com, go into the GM's library, and take a look. There is some stuff in there about what I do. I create a list of goods and services. I will say that this is especially vital as a GM to create that kind of stuff for inns and taverns and places where the PCs might stay. Creating a bespoke list of, here are the rooms you can stay in, here's the food that they have. If they're staying in a place for multiple days, and I know that they're going to be there for multiple days, I will create a rotating menu and make that part of the game. It takes 5 minutes to do. To invent, hey, yeah, no, we're going to have frost run trout. We're going to have, that's going to be served with a garnish of, parsley and garlic potatoes. And it's going to be served with rock salt bread and a mug of our finest summer wheat ale. This is the last keg of it, and it's gone a bit musty, right? Done. I've now engaged your senses in a way that adds more texture and flavor to it. I think that's really important. I think you can apply the same sort of logic to the shops. It prevents the PCs from just going hog wild and buying whatever they want, because you can create bespoke lists that's like, there's 6 of these, there's 2 of these, this is it. As GM, you can do that. I do think it's important at times to just go, yeah, get what you want. But I think when the players are shopping, when it's an encounter, when it's a thing, then it's worth it to spend the time to add the texture and details that kind of really makes the world come alive. And again, not just a manifestation of the core. So that's, tip 1. Tip 2, interesting NPCs, people they can interact with, people who can haggle over the same object. Another trick of mine, I haven't done this in a while, maybe I'll do it sometime soon, is having another NPC who comes in and wants to buy the thing that they want to buy and is willing to haggle and drive up the price for it. Because I think that makes it feel more like an actual economy and less like you're just buying from a vending machine. And then finally making the shopkeep an interesting character, someone who's memorable, someone who has personality and quirks, someone who they can work with and learn about and get to know over time, and eventually come to a place where they know how to get the better of the merchant. I think that's always, for me, kind of one of the most satisfying moments, when the PCs learn, oh, that merchant really loves old pewter tankards, and we found like 8 of them with historical significance. Let's take them to that guy. He's going to give us a lot of money for them. Whereas if we sold them to this shop over here, we get hoppers. So yeah, there's been some great suggestions in chat here too about understanding how supply and production can affect your world. I do think there's a level of detail there that you can get into that is too granular about, like, well, they produce one more of these per week. Sure, I know there's nothing wrong with that, but I do also think that there is going to come a point in time where you're like, yeah, the players need 8 of these and I'm just going to sell it. There's nothing wrong with just kind of doing that on the fly as well. I do like the idea of doing some limited capacity, but I think if you dig into the rules of Pathfinder, you quickly come to realize how quickly that doesn't make sense, because especially when you're making consumables, you can make them in batches. So, you know, if you just start cranking out elixirs of healing or elixirs of life, and there's more than one person doing it, they go pretty fast. Like, you can make, you know, several in a few days. So, yeah. So that's my tips. That's what we just went through. They literally just had their shopping excursion. In addition to that, I was like, hey, if you guys wanted to buy anything else, if the group wants to buy any other objects, just let me know. Send me a list off hours and we can work that out. So as to give them both the texture of an encounter, but also let them do some just base shopping if they wanted to. Hey, can I find X? Okay, sure. Let me tell you whether or not you can find it. Without having to make them jump through too many hoops. Some hoops are okay. Too many hoops, not okay. So, yeah. So I do think that's kind of where we're at. That out. Yeah. What else I got going on right now? Let me see if there's any other updates. So, the reprint of the print edition of Wolfran's Fate is not here yet. This is not it. It has not even shipped yet. But that's fine. Once it ships, it'll be here in 4 or 5 days. So I'm just waiting for that to ship. Once I get it and I'm able to take a look through it, this will go on sale for patron supporters only. Patrons are going to be the only ones to buy it here at first. Everybody else is going to have to wait until probably PaizoCon would be. You know? Somewhere around there is when I'll probably put the first one on sale. What else do I have going on? Writing on part 3 is progressing. The polishing on part 2 is progressing. Neither are going quite as quick as I would like, but they are progressing. I'm actually taking Friday off this week to get to get some headway on both. So, yeah, that's when you work in gaming, you oftentimes take days off so that you can work on other projects. It's an age-old tradition. I think, you know, that is a very common thing that happens in this biz. Is just the only way you can get ahead is by actually taking time off your day job to work on your freelance or your side hustle. I'm doing that this Friday. I'm maxed out on vacations. Time for me to take a day off and just crank some work on some good Eventide content. We're gonna do that this week. Yeah, the art order is almost done, actually. I only have 2 more pieces to write out. So maybe I'll do that Friday and get that sent out this week. That'd be good. Start getting some more pieces in there. Now that I finally have a solid sense of everything that's in part 2. There are a few characters that I know I'm going to need to illustrate. Hadram. I've kind of settled on a few characters. Hadram, Jaratha, Alapar. So I'm going to get a fair number of headshots to get those done. And then in addition to that, I've started to figure out what the half-pagers are going to be. So I'm almost there. I just need to settle on 1 or 2 things. There's like 1 or 2 pieces that I'm hemming and hawing on. So yeah, it's not going to be much of a vacation. It's going to be a day where I wake up and do role-playing game work just on a different thing. So, you know, there's that. All right, folks. That's about all I have here for tonight. I have another stream starting up here in just about 15 minutes, so I have to do a handful of things to get ready for that. With the groups going into the wild, do you have random encounters for them? Andrew, that's a very interesting question. I'll give you the very, very short answer on that. There is a system for random encounters for the journey between Wormbone and Red Thistle. And the way I do random encounters is both location-based and how far you are away from how wild of a place you're in. So if you stay on the main road, your chances of encounters are low, and most of the things that you encounter are going to be relatively tame threats because the area is patrolled and there's people going through it all the time. The further you get away from the road, the further you get away from Wormbone, the more dangerous it can get. And the PCs can encounter things that they should not mess. So we will see how that goes, how that plays out here in the coming weeks as the players begin the long journey from Wormbone to... I already know what the first encounter is, so had that all planned out in case one of my got to it. So I'm excited about it. I'm going to keep that under my hat. So Alara, yeah, the Player's Guide PDF for patrons. Let me put that on my to-do list. I'm going to get that out. I'm going to get that out sometime here in the next month or so. But I know I need to still polish one of the classes. Maybe I'll add that to my to-do list for Friday. The to-do list for Friday is getting long already. Okay, so that's what I got here, folks. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your support. I really look forward to hearing how folks get through part 1 of Rolfen's Fate. Please let me know how it goes. Yeah, no, the hands are pretty good. I mean, you can kind of see the where they got hurt, but nah, it's mostly just skin now. I'm fine. I'm fine now. It still itches on it. All right, folks, that's all I got. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for your support. We'll see you all in about 10 to 15 minutes for some zombie killing action over on Twitch. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.